All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Seeds of Change podcast. I am your host, Mark A. Turnipseed. I'm thrilled to be on the radio today, to be talking to you, because I got a great topic, y'all. I got a great topic while I was out walking my doggy the other day. And what I got to thinking was how we all need purpose. Right? How that one book like really transformed my life when I was a kid. It came out. It was Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. And it was this Christian book, and I hated it so much because it was Christian. But the title of it, A Purpose-Driven Life, was extremely potent, right? The thought of having a life that had purpose was something that I recognized that I wanted. I recognize that, look, if I have purpose in my life, then I'll have desire, right? Because there was a big part of me for a big chunk of my life that honestly, I don't know if it had desire. And I think that's what happens in trauma. I think when you go through a trauma, especially as a young kid, you go through trauma and you might lose a sense of purpose and desire in your life. You might lose a little bit of that spunk. Losing a little bit of that spunk can happen at any point in your life, but it happened at a point in my life where it was very young. So I began as an adult to learn how to find that spunk, right? That sparkle, that drive to life, that energy. Like I get asked all the time when I'm in the gym, how do you stay so positive, right? Y'all, that was not always the case. It was not always the case. It's a drive into a purpose that leads me to finding that joy every day, to finding that energy, to finding that motivation. To get myself up out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning and begin my day, right? My structured day, it involves a lot of stress, right? In order to do that, there's got to be purpose in it. So how do you find purpose? How did I find purpose? How can you go about in your life finding purpose? And what is that purpose going to do for you? Y'all, the first place that I started to find purpose was actually in my diet. The diet is an exceptional place to learn a lot about yourself. If you are neglecting your diet right now and you're starting to feel depressed, right? You feel like you have a lack of a sense of direction in your life and your diet's off, then crank your diet back. Give yourself not only like don't hop on a diet. I'm not saying like start cutting calories. I'm not saying start looking at your macros. I have never counted a macro in my life. Never. Right? I've never counted a macro. There's no point for me. And the reason why I have found that is that I have discovered something that I call purposeful eating, right? It's a purposeful diet. It's a diet that's based on purpose rather than based on measurements and some, arbitrary number. That's an evolving science, right? This diet and nutrition stuff, it's an evolving science. So experts in the field, it's not that they actually know everything. They're just starting to learn everything. We're at the tip of the iceberg with human understanding. So don't take any expert to be the expert. The only expert that you have is going to be that expert in your life. I can guarantee that you know better than anyone else what's good for you. The problem is most of us don't know ourselves. Most of us have not given ourselves enough time to be with ourselves to get to understand ourselves. So we don't know what we need. Instead, we have to pay attention to doctors who've spent millions of hours inside of the studies learning about old selves, past history, historical selves, right? But you have right in front of you, right inside of you, you have the depth of understanding. You have the depth of all knowledge of good and evil, all knowledge of what you need to eat, all knowledge of what you need to stay away from. So your fears, your passions, you have all of that within you. And everything that's inside of you can help drive you into your potential, right? But if you don't understand that, if you can't find yourself, then you're not going to be eating correctly. You're not going to be living correctly. You're going to be slipping into places in your life that you find 3 years later you're not happy with. And that's ultimately, I believe, it's ultimately because you forgot to prioritize knowing and loving yourself. When we prioritize knowing and loving ourselves, then the answer comes out about what this being needs in order for us to love ourselves. Love is going to be the manifestation of all the greatness. When you love yourself, you're going to manifest all the greatness that you're trying to manifest by going to the gym every day, by lifting, right? But if you're doing that in self-disgust, then how on earth are you supposed to manifest the beautiful being that you're trying to manifest? You're looking out at other people and you're going, I want to be like that. What's he eat? What's he do? How does he run? How does he work out? But the problem is that person who you're looking at has self-love. That person who you're looking at has self-knowledge. That person who you're looking at can share what they do, but it's all going to come down to whether you know yourself, because at one point you're going to have to apply it to yourself. You're going to have to apply it to yourself. And y'all, the whole concept of your dreams coming true is when you believe in yourself, when you love yourself, when you're living in your bliss, when you're living free, when you're living happy, when you're living comfortable and confident. That's when the magic starts happening. That's when the universe starts unloading all the gifts to you. That's when, for me, I started to lose 70 pounds, right? That's when, for me, I was diagnosed with COPD. I could not walk up a flight of steps 7 years ago. I was diagnosed with COPD. I was going to be on oxygen by the time I was 36. It was when I started to love myself. Very shortly after that diagnosis, I had a suicide attempt that led me into a state where I either had to choose, all right, Mark, either fucking start to love yourself or just go. Right? Or just go. But the going wasn't working. I tried to commit suicide 3 times in a week, right? So the going wasn't working. I only had one option, and that was to learn to love myself. And in learning to love myself, with the help of my wonderful ex-wife at the time, she really helped me to love myself, because in other people, we can actually mirror back who we really are. So if somebody is out there in your life who does show you love, then use that. Use that, because you're going to be able to find how you can love yourself too, if you dive deep enough into that. So I did at that time, and it rescued me. It allowed me to start to climb out of the horrible turmoil that I had found myself in, of self-disgust, self-loathing, of not knowing myself. Y'all, I didn't know what to wake up and eat the next day, right? I didn't know, because I didn't have a purpose in my diet. I didn't have an understanding of what my body needed. It was triathlon. It was triathlon that led me to a place where I started to eat with purpose, where I knew that I had to consume first thing in the morning. It was always a banana with a little bit of peanut butter. And I felt like I concentrated on it. And I was also going through a study of Ayurveda at the time. So learning kind of like the yoga understanding of food and diet and how it connects with the stars and all the energy. Ayurveda, if you haven't looked into it, look into it. It's very interesting, because it is purposeful dieting. It's purposeful eating based on who you are, based on your unique makeup. Y'all, that's so very essential. But see, I couldn't just go into it in a book. I had to go into it into actually understanding myself. And that's what triathlon did to me, right? Triathlon got me to the point where I was either hurting myself by training as hard as I was doing, or I could learn about myself, right? So when a challenge comes up, when it goes, oh, I can't make it through this, and you choose to go, I'm going to go a little bit further, then that's the moment where you're going to start to learn about yourself. You're going to about to learn what you're really made of. And if you start to learn what you're really made of, then you start to recognize what your body needs to get to where you're going and to nourish what you're made of. Does this all make sense? Does this all make sense? Like, the way you actually fix your diet is you're going to start doing. You're going to start doing and you're going to start being what you need to be, right? And in that, you're going to start facing these challenges. And instead of running from these challenges, you're going to lean into them a little bit. And when you lean into them, you're going to start to recognize what you really are truly made of. And at that point, you're going to start to recognize what you truly need to be your best self. This takes a lot of time, everybody. And it takes a lot to learn to listen. Any counselor out there, any marriage and family counselor will say listening is the number one problem, right? Listening is the number one problem between couples. Well, the only reason why it's the number one problem between couples is because people also don't know how to listen to themselves. You don't know how to listen to the own voice that's in your head. Or maybe you listen too much to the own voice that's in your head and you don't listen to the truth that's in your heart. Maybe you need to dial back that voice. Maybe you need a new understanding and a new relationship with yourself. It's all about relationships, like I shared in another podcast. It's all about the relationships that we have with ourself, with our food, with our fitness, with our romantic partners, with our dogs, with our home, with the weather. It's all about relationships. It's going to help you have that perspective shift to launch you into the next step. So if you have a relationship with food, right? If you have a relationship with food that's based in purpose, that food is going to take you further into your dreams, into your best self, and into feeling inside of your skin in a place that you know is the best because you know yourself the best. And nobody's going to be able to tell you any different. So I could write up a fitness and nutrition plan for anybody, but it's all going to be an evolving process of you learning to love and know yourself. That's really where it's going to be that's going to be the locus, that's going to be the pinpoint, that's going to be the cornerstone of your evolving nature, of your transformation. It's going to be learning to love yourself, learning to see who you are, learning to communicate with what you need. And at that point, there's a whole bunch of other things that you're going to have to also learn how to do, which is like setting up boundaries so that you can be there for yourself, right? There's a whole host of things and challenges that come up, and those things are something to look forward to. But first, get out there, start to know yourself, put yourself through some challenges, do some cold plunges, go hike a mountain, go do something that's invigorating, right? Go do something that's a little bit extra. Damn. I remember when I was first getting off of heroin, the first thing that I did that was uncomfortable was I went and danced in front of everybody at the rehab. I remember putting my headphones on like this and dancing my ass off in front of everybody. And that got me to help to know myself. Right? In doing that little bit of discomfort, I recognized that sometimes I just have to dance. Sometimes if I don't move, the energy that's inside and within me becomes this anxious little mess and shameful character that's not happy to be who he is. And if I just dance a little bit, it comes right out. If I just move, if I get that energy out, it just comes right out. Y'all, it's all pretty mechanical. I think that this body is pretty darn mechanical. You recognize what it needs. You learn to love yourself. You learn to know yourself. Then you recognize what your body and mind and soul needs for nourishment to be your best self. All right, everybody, that's Seeds of Change. I'm over and out. AC guys are here. I'm going to crank this AC up and finally be cool. Y'all have a wonderful day.